At midnight, when the world was asleep and silence wrapped itself around the earth like a heavy blanket, she stood alone by the door. The clock had just struck 12, its chimes echoing faintly in the distance, and the sound of the wind brushing against the old wooden walls of her house made her heart throb in her chest. She hadn't expected anyone, not at this hour, not when her street was usually nothing more than a graveyard of shadows. Yet, a knock, slow, deliberate, and cold, echoed against the door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle. She opened the door, and in that moment, she froze in fear. There was no one standing there. Only the darkness, stretching endlessly, swallowing the empty road, the fences, the faraway trees. But there was something else, something she could not see, only feel. The air felt heavier, colder, as though something invisible was standing right in front of her. For a moment, she thought of closing the door, locking it tight, hiding under her blanket like a child afraid of monsters. But something deep in her chest whispered, "Wait," and so she did. Her name was Elara, and she had never been brave. Not once in her 30 years had she faced anything with courage. She had lost more battles to fear than she could count. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being alone. Tonight was no different. Her legs wanted to run. Her voice wanted to scream. Yet something about this midnight visitor, or the lack of one, pulled her in. She stepped outside. The night was unnaturally quiet. No dogs barking, no crickets singing. The stars above were swallowed by clouds that seemed to hang unnaturally low. The air was thick, and every instinct in her body screamed that she shouldn't be here. She turned to go back inside, but then her eyes caught it. Something small and folded lying at her feet. A letter. The envelope was old, yellowed, as though it had been waiting for years to be delivered. Her name was written on it in a handwriting she didn't recognize, but it was careful, elegant, like the kind of writing that carried weight. She bent down, her fingers shaking, and picked it up. She didn't open it right away. She couldn't. Her mind filled with 1,000 questions. Who would send her a letter at midnight? Why leave it at her door instead of the mailbox? And why now, of all nights, when she had been sitting alone in her living room, clutching the glass of water she hadn't touched, whispering to herself that maybe life had nothing left for her anymore? Because that was the truth. Elara was tired of the endless cycle of waking, working, and existing, tired of feeling invisible, tired of carrying an ache in her chest that no medicine could cure. She had thought of giving up more times than she dared to admit, but each time, something small, a bird singing, a child laughing, an old memory of her mother kept her here a little longer. But tonight, before the knock, she had almost decided she wouldn't see tomorrow. She clutched the letter as though it were fire in her hands and closed the door behind her. Sitting down on her worn-out couch, she stared at the envelope for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, carefully, she tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. Her eyes scanned the words, and the first line made her blood run cold. "Do not be afraid. I know your heart. I know your pain. And tonight I am here for you." She dropped the letter, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't possible. No one knew what she was feeling. She hadn't told anyone. She lived alone, spoke to no one, carried her grief like a secret tomb inside her. How could anyone write this? Her eyes returned to the letter. "You think you are forgotten? You think no one cares? But I promise you, you are seen. And you are needed. Step outside again. Take 10 steps down the road. Do not look back until you feel the light." Her hands shook so violently that the letter slipped from her fingers. She pressed her palms against her face, tears streaming down. This had to be a trick, some cruel joke. But deep down, somewhere beyond logic, She felt something stir, a pull, a calling, like the faint memory of a lullaby sung long ago. She argued with herself. What if it was dangerous? What if someone was waiting for her in the shadows? What if this was how everything ended? But another voice whispered, softer, steadier. What if this was the beginning instead? Elara rose. Her knees felt weak, her breath shallow. She slipped on her shoes, grabbed her coat, and stepped out once again into the midnight air. The road stretched before her, lit faintly by a single flickering street lamp. She counted each step as she walked. 1, 2, 3. The sound of her own footsteps echoed like thunder in her ears. 4, 5, 6. The silence around her grew deeper, almost suffocating. 7, 8, 9. Her heart pounded. 10. She stopped. The air shifted. It was colder here, yet there was something different. A faint warmth brushing against her face, like sunlight breaking through darkness, though no sun was anywhere near. She turned her head, but before she could look back, something happened. A light appeared, not blinding, not harsh, but soft, golden, like the first rays of dawn. It shimmered ahead of her, floating gently in the air, as though waiting for her. Her lips parted, but no words came. Tears blurred her vision. She took a step closer, then another. The light pulsed, brighter, warmer, wrapping around her like invisible arms. And in that glow, for the first time in years, she felt something she had forgotten. Her chest loosened, her mind quieted. The ache, the heavy shadow that had followed her for so long, seemed to ease. She fell to her knees on the empty road, sobbing, but not from despair this time, from release, from something she couldn't name but had always longed for. And then she heard it, a voice, not from outside but from within the light itself, deep and gentle as though the universe had chosen this night to speak only to her. "Elara, you are not alone," she gasped, clutching her chest. The voice was not frightening, not strange, but achingly familiar, like the echo of someone she had loved and lost. She wanted to ask who it was, what it meant, why it had come to her. But before she could, the light shifted again. Shapes began to form within it. A figure, hazy and radiant, stepping closer. Her breath caught in her throat as the outline grew clearer. It was a man, tall, calm, his face obscured but kind, his presence overwhelming yet tender. He raised a hand, and though he never touched her, she felt it as surely as if he had. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. Her body trembled between terror and longing. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words never came. The figure tilted its head, as if smiling, and whispered something that would change everything. And then, the figure whispered, "You've carried your pain long enough, it's time to lay it down." Elara's breath shook, as though her very soul was trembling. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, to beg for clarity. Yet, in the warmth of that golden glow, she felt as if she already knew. Something inside her recognized this presence, like an old memory just out of reach, the kind that haunts dreams and vanishes at dawn. Her lips parted, a weak whisper escaping. Who are you?" The figure did not move closer, nor did it step away. It remained there, steady, unwavering. "I am the echo of what you've lost. I am the promise of what you still have. You may call me what you wish, hope, love, light, but I have always been with you." Elara shook her head, tears dripping down her cheeks. "No one has been with me. I've been alone, always." Her voice broke like fragile glass. "I can't keep fighting. I don't know how." The light pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. "You already have. Every time you chose to rise, every morning you opened your eyes when it felt unbearable. You fought, Every time you carried your grief and still moved forward. You proved your strength. You are here tonight because you never gave up, even when you thought you had nothing left. Her chest tightened, sobs rising from deep within. But I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want this weight. Then let it go. The words sank into her like water seeping into dry soil. Let it go. Could it really be that simple? She had carried her burdens like shackles, believing they defined her, believing she could never escape them. Yet here, beneath the dark sky, with the golden figure before her, she wondered what if she truly could. Her hands trembled as she reached toward the light. And though her fingers touched nothing, she felt warmth fill her palms, spreading through her arms, flooding into her chest. For the first time in years, she felt alive. Her mind spun with questions. Why me? Why tonight? Why now? The voice softened, wrapping around her like a lullaby. Because you were ready. Because even in your despair, you whispered for help, and someone heard. You may not remember, but once, long ago, you believed in miracles. Tonight, you are standing inside one. Her breath caught. Memories flickered in her mind, her mother's voice singing to her as a child, her father lifting her high in the air, the way she used to laugh without reason. A life before the sorrow, before the emptiness, and in that flood of memory, she realized something. She hadn't truly lost everything. The people she had loved, the moments she had cherished, they had shaped her. They had never really left. The figure's light grew brighter, and for a moment she thought she saw faces within it, her mother smiling softly, her father eyes kind and steady, friends she had drifted from, moments she thought were gone forever. They were all there, woven into the glow, reminders that she was not abandoned, not forgotten. Elara collapsed to her knees, her cries breaking through the silence. But these tears were different. They were cleansing, burning away the weight she had carried for so long. The figure bent slightly, as though to meet her where she was, and whispered again, "Walk forward, Elara. The road is waiting. Your story is not over." She lifted her head, her eyes blurry but wide. Ahead of her, the glow stretched further down the road, lighting a path through the darkness. She hesitated, her body trembling, but then she rose. One shaky step, then another. Each time her foot touched the ground, the ache inside her chest loosened just a little more. The night no longer felt suffocating. The silence no longer felt empty. For the first time, she realized the darkness wasn't meant to destroy her. It was meant to make the light shine brighter. And as she walked, something extraordinary happened. The world around her began to change. The clouds that had swallowed the stars started to drift apart, and tiny pinpricks of silver light pierced through the sky. The air softened, warmer now, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming flowers, though no flowers grew near. She stopped when she reached the end of the glowing path. The light hovered before her one last time, gentle and strong. You are stronger than your fear, Elara. Remember that. When the nights feel endless, when the silence feels heavy, look within. The same light that guided you tonight is already inside of you. Her lips quivered. Will I see you again? The figure seemed to smile, though its face remained veiled. I was never gone, and just like that, the glow began to fade, dissolving into the night air until only the faint shimmer of starlight remained. Elara stood still, her heart pounding, her body trembling, unsure if what had happened was real or some desperate dream. But then she looked at her hands. They no longer shook. Her breath came steady, and deep in her chest, where despair had once lived, there was something new, something steady, something alive, hope. The road behind her was the same as it had always been, empty, dark, ordinary. But the woman who had walked it was no longer the same. She turned and began her walk back home. Each step was lighter, steadier. For years she had been walking without purpose, without reason. Tonight, for the first time, she felt the ground beneath her feet as if it belonged to her. When she reached her house, the door stood open, as if waiting for her return. She stepped inside, her eyes catching the letter still lying on the floor where she had dropped it. She bent down, picked it up again, and pressed it against her chest. The words echoed in her mind, "Do not be afraid. I know your heart. I know your pain. And tonight, I am here for you." She smiled through her tears. Whoever had written it, whoever had sent it, had saved her. Or maybe it wasn't a who at all. Maybe it was something greater. That night, Elara did not curl beneath her blanket, wishing for the world to disappear. That night, she lay down with her window open, letting the cool breeze wash over her, her eyes fixed on the stars now shining brightly above. She whispered softly into the night, "Thank you." And though no one answered, she felt it. The quiet, powerful presence surrounding her, inside her, holding her steady. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Life did not suddenly become easy. There were still struggles, still mornings where her chest felt heavy, still moments when fear tried to creep back in. But each time she remembered the light, the voice, the road that had led her out of the darkness. She began to smile more. She began to talk to neighbors, to open her door when the world knocked. She began to write letters herself, not to anyone in particular, but to those who might one day feel what she had felt. She left them in small places, park benches, coffee shops, bus stops, each one carrying the word she once needed most. "You are not alone." And somewhere, deep down, she knew the cycle would continue. That just as the letter had found her, her letters would find others. That the light she had seen was not only for her, but for anyone willing to believe that even in the darkest night, there is always a path waiting to be found. Because the truth she carried now was simple, but unshakable. The night is never endless, and even at midnight, when the world feels silent and cold, the door you open in fear may just be the door to hope.